Welcome to the rip28 podcast. We were listening to the sounds of intentions from the Zen AF album by Miss Likwuikd. You may listen to the sounds of Likwuikd and Ellamaeflossie on Spotify and other streaming agencies. Welcome to the rip28 podcast, where real guys, real friends come to discuss real issues. I'm the host that likes to boast. I am Beezy, the educator's educator. Today's discussion is education. What does it mean to you? How has it helped or hurt you in your careers? What do the numbers suggest? Today, I have a distinguished panel with me, some smart and educated fellas. I'll let them introduce themselves and tell us about their educational background. But before I do that, please go like, follow, share, and tell your family, friends, and foes about the rip28 podcast on Twitter, IG, Facebook, YouTube, and SoundCloud. With that being said, I will talk to my distinguished panel, starting with Dr. Jawan, JK.
Hey, what's going on, fam? It's JK from down in Charleston. Degree in electrical engineering, PhD, focused in digital communications. Hey, let's talk. Let's yap it up.
Throwing it to my guy, my big brother, my former leader, Mr. Chance Nesbitt.
Hey, Chance Nesbitt, man. University of Memphis. Tigers, go Tigers. Bachelor's degree in physical education.
Next, we have the astute guy, Mr. Andre Cooper Luke Cooper.
What it do, rip28 podcast family. Nah, man, I'm that guy that bubble in some college. Wingate University, Midlands Tech. You know what I'm saying? That's how we do it.
Let's go. And last but not least, my lead blocker, my big tackle, offensive and defensive tackle, Mr. Tim T. Beasy.
I was about to say, Dre, don't sell yourself short. You know that you got that PhD in thugonometry from the School of Hard Knocks. Right? But TB, I went to the Institute, the Georgia Institute of Technology for undergrad. Got a bachelor's degree in business. Went to Clemson for my first master's in human resource development at the Georgia State University for my second master's in sociology, and current PhD student, ABD. For those of you guys in higher ed, that's where I'm at. JK know what I'm talking about. But that's where we at in terms of this educational attainment.
Well, I'll tell you what, JK would be the only one on this podcast that know what those are. But since I didn't get a chance to introduce myself, I am the host that likes to boast, Beezy the educator's educator. I graduated from North Greenville University. It was college way back in the day when I graduated. I graduated with an English and education degree. I am now working in the education field in elementary education and currently working with discipline. So with all that being said, with all these smart guys, let's stop procrastinating and get into it. First question, how do you feel about students returning to school during this global pandemic? And I'll toss it to Mr. Andre Cooper first.
Oh, man. It's a complicated kind of issue because they're being deprived of interaction, but at the same time, for safety, because you don't know what this COVID-19 will do to anybody, to be honest with you. They don't really know. So it's for their own good, for their own protection. And at the same time, I mean, I'll be honest with you, from my personal experience, from watching this last, second half of the school year, these teachers definitely took back seat to teaching and just kind of issued out, basic assignments. They kind of just got on through. It was almost like it was like a semi-vacation for them, because I felt like my son was just getting on, okay, I'm present, and here goes a couple of worksheets and this, that, and the third, answer a few questions. Next you know, the teacher let us out of class early. Oh, this teacher not having class for today. So I got an hour break from this time to this time to go with this teacher, and da-da-da-da-da, blah, 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 blah. So I'm just like, y'all can't be serious. Like, Like we don't even know, like the kids who didn't do their work, are they pushing them on to the 9th grade, or are they holding them back in the 8th grade? Nobody knows. And then my thing is also with the new school year starting up, like are y'all gonna cover what they might have missed? You know, of course, when everything first happened, nobody expected it. So y'all gonna cover what they missed, or y'all just gonna keep pushing? So, yeah, I mean, I ain't necessarily like I ain't a big fan of, but at the same time, I understand.
Gotcha. I will toss it to Mr. T. Beezy.
Yeah, I think the whole issue of schools reopening in the middle of the pandemic is actually a nuanced conversation. Just because you have to be aware fundamentally what schools represent, not only just for students, but for everybody that's involved, right? Because not only are schools places where you go and get education, but it's also where you drop your kids off and keep them safe, theoretically, for a few hours a day while you're able to go to work. So therefore, if we don't have school open, this means that people can't go to work, right? But even beyond that, when you think about schools as an organization, a lot of times these organizations have different accountabilities that they have to do, that their leaders have to be mindful of as they make these decisions, right? So for instance, a lot of us, if you're part of the public school system, these public schools are financed with tax dollars. Sometimes they may not even have paid for the building, which means these buildings have mortgages on them. And a lot of these systems are predicated on people being utilizing the service. So therefore, if people aren't utilizing the service, then that throws a wrench into the system. So, you know, while I'm not saying that I am crazy about the idea of people going to school in the pandemic, for a lot of reasons, it's probably the best outcome that we have right now. And just as another example that Dre alluded to, you're going to have some students that's in impoverished areas who get left further behind because they don't have access to facilities. And the only time that they have access to those facilities is when they're in school. So, you know, I think you like to see better management from the course of leadership in terms of communication and actually iron out a plan that you can have confidence in. But I do think that you do have to have schools open at this moment.
Good points. Next, we will go to QB1, all the way down in Arkansas, Mr. Nesbitt.
Oh man, both of you guys had some good points. It's a tough decision. It's like everybody need to go to school because 99% of the parents aren't teachers. I mean, they're not going to get the same education at home as they're going to get in school, for one. So that's a point to the need to go to school part. The safety part is, I guess from all the stats that I've heard, you know, kids really don't get it the same way that adults get it. But if they do get it and are asymptomatic, they go home to their mom and dad or grandma or cousins and all that stuff and spread it around even more. And that's the dangerous part about it. I mean, it's a tough choice, tough decision. It needs to be taken seriously for sure, because you know, it's not the government per se, like the president of the United States. It's these states individually that are making these decisions. Like, I got around 5 or 6 schools in my area, and all of them are doing something different. You know, nobody's on the same page in that sense. I think personally, as of right now, I would send my kids back to school. But you know, the way this thing is going, nobody has ever been through anything like this. So it's day by day. Actually, it's like tomorrow something might come out, and you'd be like, "Nah, I'm not sending them." Or the next day you come out and you be like, "Yeah, it's cool." So I mean, it's a toss up. I mean, you just wait and see. It's day by day, pretty much.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's a tough decision to kind of decide. Do you kind of like choosing between education and safety? So I think with us not ever having been in a situation like this, it's tough on everybody, man. You know, it's tough on the parents wanting to have their kids safe. It's tough on the teachers like myself. Like, I want to go back. I miss the kids. I miss doing my job. But at the same time, I have to also consider that I have a young group of kids that I have to be responsible for as well with my decision. So with that being said, last but not least, the educated one, Mr. JK.
Looks like Juwan is muted and
Look
frozen.
like we may be frozen. So we'll get back with Jawan on that point. So moving on, I want to kind of get the, pick your brains and find out how did you develop your thoughts and develop your thoughts on education. What experiences and what people have helped you kind of decide which way to go with education, whether it's being that you went to a tech school, whether you went to Georgia Tech, an Ivy League school, or a trade school. What kind of experiences did you have in your life that kind of helped you decide or played onto those experiences? I'll start with Mr. T. Beasley.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And so I'm actually in a unique situation from a familial standpoint. I'm actually third generation college. My grandmother went to college on my father's side, and as a result, he went to college. I think he was the first one from Williamsburg County to go to the University of South Carolina on an academic scholarship. And so my mother, she pursued her master's degree in nursing. So education has been definitely intertwined into my life from an early age. I've had the opportunity to attend college on athletic scholarship, and JK just came back in, so I'm not sure if you want to circle back.
We will.
But thanks to the opportunities afforded to me athletically, I had the chance to kind of pick and choose what colleges that I wanted to go to. And so, when it was time for me to make my college choice, I visited Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Georgia, at the height of Freaknik, So Def, BMF, and Outkast. So I think that you can understand how that could be very influential to a young man. But at the same time, I'm a product of public school. Then Richland School District 1, Columbia High, is one of the schools where under 50% of the students there actually receive their high school diploma. And so that's a motivating factor for me, is just to understand that education is a lifelong process and make the most out of those opportunities, because, my family sacrificed hard in order to give me the opportunity to have an education and have different things. And then they really instilled in me the importance of making sure that you're able to think critically and also know things so that you can survive and not be taken advantage of.
Exactly. And I just noticed Jawan just chimed back in, but we'll circle back to him when it's his time to speak. He'll answer 2 questions. So next, we'll toss it to Mr. Chance Nesbitt. What experiences and people have helped you decide which way to go in your educational journey, buddy?
Man, that's pretty simple, parents, grandparents, family, because we're not that far off where Black people can go to college. You know what I mean? So it's like I wasn't the first person to go to college, but I was one of the few for sure. And it was a big deal that, hey, when you graduate high school, you better go to college. And it wasn't no option about that. You know what I mean? So it was like, get the job done, do what you got to do. And like Tim, I was fortunate enough to get an athletic scholarship too. Being a student athlete is a lot different than just being just a student, because you gotta deal with a whole bunch of different set of circumstances. We can get into that later, but it's a full-time job pretty much, and then he's trying to go to school too. But just my family, it was expected, and it wasn't no plan B, like saying, hey, if I don't go to college, what I'm gonna do then? It was, you going to college.
Exactly. All right. I'm going to toss it to Mr. Jawan and ask you a 2-part question, Jawan. Tell me how you feel about the students returning during the global pandemic, and tell me some of your experiences and some people that have helped you develop your thoughts on education.
Oh yeah, I'm late getting into this topic, but yeah, me and my wife had conversation after conversation about this whole COVID thing, the virus, and all this stuff. Fortunately, both of us, well, my wife always worked from home. Fortunately, I work for a company that's allowed me to work from home at least till December. Then they're gonna reevaluate, and so we're fortunate enough to be able to keep our kids home and just let them do the homeschooling kind of thing, the virtual thing. We done turned the playroom. I got a big 4x6 whiteboard. We got Des in there. I'm up there doing March. So I already started. The kids love it. You know, I'm up there teaching them math, multiplication, a little algebra, and so I'm having fun. And so every morning I get up and teach them a little bit. They do their little work, and so we're gonna get a little routine. But yeah, we're for those who need to go to work. Open, but it's like you said, it depends on how they do it. And like Chance said before, you got every school district operating differently. And so with the I guess the statistics and everything about this virus changing on a weekly basis. So it's very hard and very tough to make those decisions right now. But yeah, the scary thing is, and I don't know if people are thinking about this, but this is freaking the middle of summer. What virus do you know like the flu who's like this in the middle of the summertime? And so I'm thinking like the fall, winter time, I don't know, and it's up in the air. I really don't know, and that's why we're currently signed up to keep our kids home to keep them safe as possible.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely understand the parents who have to send them back to school because at the end of the day, you got to work, you got to put food on the table. So
Exactly. And the second part of that question was, what experiences and people and have helped you develop your thoughts on education and which way you decided to go in your educational journey? Seems like we've lost Dr. Kennedy once again, so I'm going to toss it back to T. Beasley for another point.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind as we listen to JK talk is that the whole idea that students can just sit out of school for the betterment of society means that we really do have to really consider the overall societal impact beyond just ourselves. And so what I mean by that is, as Chance was saying, that there was a potential social cost that goes along with having the kids potentially transmitted to other individuals in their family, which in turn transmits it to other people. But even the ability to have your kids sit at home is a privileged position that everybody's not able, right? You got a lot of people that are hourly employees who, if they don't work, they don't get paid. If they don't get paid, then they don't support their household, right? And I've already kind of alluded to the facilities about that. Even when we think about school, we don't understand the latent functions of schools. For some students, going to school represents the best meal that they will have in that day. So therefore, when you keep schools closed, then you're essentially malnourishing certain populations of individuals. So once again, just really wanted to reaffirm that there are a lot of different things that are outside of your normal day-to-day that might immediately impact you, that other people have to put into thoughts and collective action. And, you know, in terms of the greater good, going back to school may be the best thing for us to do, even though it's a very scary and dangerous proposition.
I agree with that because some kids, like you say, that they don't get the social skills just not being at school, just being at the house. I mean, some people are only child. Some people got 5 or 6 brothers and sisters, and somebody got to take. One of the oldest probably got to take care of all of them and try to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. Type thing. That's not the best situation for sure. I mean, somebody gonna be lacking somewhere, you know. So it is a tough situation.
All right. And I'm going to throw it to Mr. Cooper, G5 Monster.
Yeah, well, talk about the education part of it. Well, I was the first grandchild to graduate high school in my family. I had 2 previous cousins. One got locked up, the oldest one, and the second one he ended up dropping out. Like I say, that street life ran in my family. My first cousin, he actually, just to keep it a buck, he ended up getting charged with like a sex offender charge. He was dating a young girl, and he got pulled over and made a mistake, said it was his girlfriend, and everything went left after that. And then my other cousin actually brought a gun to school, so he got kicked out. But so I graduated, whatever. First one to go to college. Of course, athletic scholarship. Catching passes from Nesbitt. Jumping on people back with Tim Brown and L. Beasy. But so I went to Likwuikd University. You know what I'm saying? It was cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course, I went to college. I got a whole nother perspective. You know what I'm saying? I got a bunch of guys who's similar to guys I was at home with. Same guys I was running the street with outside of school. These guys, they in the clubs in Charlotte. They smoking good, doing everything you really don't need to be doing while you're in college. So I got a whole nother perspective while I was in school. It was almost like home away from home. I was real relaxed and cool. But yeah, as far as school wise, like definitely, I mean, I appreciate education more now that I'm older, experience life some, just kind of realize, it's better. It's almost cooler to be smarter than it's cooler to just be cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I respect you more for knowing about stuff than you being flashy or you the cool cat. You got all the girls in your arms. Like, that's so simple minded, you know what I'm saying, at the end of the day. But yeah, definitely education is major. And from my perspective, like one thing I did get from being, playing sports and like going to college was just being around different ethnicities or whatever, like necessarily out of my comfort zone, because I used to went to Likwuikd University and they only had like literally 6 black females that went there. And so that was like a big culture shock. I was telling my mom, like, yo, I want to come home.
Especially being from the river.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's cool going to school, but it's like, yo, I ain't got nothing, you know what I'm saying? Like, talking to a Caucasian female, that wasn't even a part of the equation, you know what I'm saying? So that was kind of rough at first. But like I said, once I linked up with the other guys and they had me in Charlotte, so of course everything, kind of came on back around. But yeah, definitely college was something, like I said, it was an achievement for me. But I guess to a degree, not having a higher bar set by a previous cousin or I'm the only child, so ain't like I had no brother or sister to set the bar. So I was first in the lead. So of course, with me not finishing school, I definitely pushed to my younger cousins, hey man, y'all need to finish, da 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 da. Don't be out here in this workforce, without no paperwork behind your name and this, that, and the third. So I definitely pushed it on in my family.
Okay, good. One quick question. I know we all grew up on Broad River, and we were at a probably 95% black school in high school, and everything we did was pretty much African American. Now, I want you to tell me about some of your unique experiences going to a school where you were the minority, where you were at a white school or a predominantly white school. We'll toss it to JK since he's with us. Are you gonna stay with us, JK, or are you gonna fade in and out?
I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on today, man.
Hey man, you must have too much knowledge to give us today, man. You keep fading in and out. We need you with us, buddy. So tell us about, you going to Clemson and everything. How was it coming from Columbia High? We all grew up together. What was some of your experiences being at a predominantly white school?
I had a pretty good experience at Clemson, which is, like I tell people, when I went to college, I majored in something I was good at. I didn't major in something that I was going to struggle with. So I majored in engineering, which I was always good at math and science. And so, heck yeah, it was easy because, engineering class, I'm taking all engineering class. I ain't got to take history and English and all that kind of stuff. So all my focus was on just engineering and math and stuff like that. And so I actually had an undergrad was super easy. I probably kept about like a 3.8 the whole time I was at Clemson. So I never really saw myself as a, I was a minority at Clemson because of predominantly white, but I never really saw myself like that because they had a pretty good black community, African American community, and so we hung out together and stuff like that. But yeah, I never really saw color like that, so I didn't have a bad experience in that fashion. Like I said, I majored in something that was pretty easy for me because that's where my talent was at, and so it wasn't really a struggle. And so yeah, so it was pretty easy experience. I didn't have a bad experience there, even though I know if you're watching the news, there's a lot of racism and stuff in that area. But what I can say about that university, I didn't experience racism at that university. So,
Good. Now, just because your question and your part is over, don't you go anywhere because we're going to come back to you, sir.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you
try.
All right, now we're going to toss it to the quarterback, Mr. Chance.
Well, like I said, I went to University of Memphis. It was formerly called Memphis State. I guess if you did the actual numbers, it was predominantly white school, but I couldn't really tell when I went there. It was like Jawan said, a big African American community there, and you know, I hung with all races that were there, but I mean, for the most part, you know, you kind of hang with people you're used to, and then playing football and everything, it kind of shrinks your circle down even more. Any sports at school, you're gonna hang with your teammates for sure, and then the outside people are, you know, on the weekend, maybe when you go to the club or a party or something like that. Because I mean, during the course of a season, for the most part, it's all your teammates. But I don't have the same aspect maybe as like Tim at Georgia Tech or Dre at Wingate, because we had a bunch of Memphis is probably 60% African American. So I mean, they were everywhere from the good to the bad. I'm telling you, you had some extra. I mean, I know Tim been up to Memphis. Dre been up to Memphis to see me one time too. It's there's some hood spots out there for sure, and you learn, man. I turned into a different person when I moved to Memphis because it was such a different lifestyle from, you know, being in South Carolina and being 10 hours away from home.
All right, it's an education show. We'll talk about that on another podcast about how you turn into another person. That's another subject for another day. All right, we're going to toss it to Mr. Tim T. Beasy.
Yeah, so I think it's very
Mr.
important to
Freakmeat.
keep that in mind. It's one of the things that, as Dwayne indicated, might be part of the public consciousness at the moment as we kind of deal with our new racial climate. And like LeBron said, coming from a school that was over 90% white and going to a place like Georgia Tech, who at the time was still predominantly white, even though they do have a large international population, there's a huge culture shock. And you come to understand and realize that things that you take for granted and the way that you move in your day-to-day is not standard. You know, the way that you guys joke, the way that you guys interact, the way that you guys relate is just different. And so it does really expand your worldview. There's a book, and I can't call it off the top of my head, but the author talks about her experience as a person of color, a woman of color, going to white ceremonies like funerals and weddings, and she's just marked by the difference and the contrast between what she's experienced in her world and then what she experiences there. And when you think about it just on the surface, it makes a lot of sense because we've lived in a segregated America for a long time, right? To Juwan's point about going to Clemson and not seeing race, I don't know what you talking about, because when I went to Clemson, I got told straight up that this ain't where you come from, buddy. And then when you think about just the different naming of the institutions with Ben Tillman Hall, Strom Thurmond Library, right? These are people that are noted segregationalists, racist, very racist history that's attached to it. John C. Calhoun, for whom the land, I believe he donated the land that Clemson was on. So I don't think that you can get away from that legacy and then just pretend like it's just going to evaporate overnight by not mentioning it. I think what you have to do is you have to address it and you have to reconcile it in some shape, form, or fashion. And even if it's just, hey, these things ain't going to change because we are traditionalists, well, at least we had the conversation and that's the resolution that came of it, as opposed to pretending like, oh, well, everything's fine, right? Like, yo, there was a long time you couldn't go to Clemson. And when you went to Clemson, then you watch the football games from Nigger Hill.
Well, Juwan real light skinned, so he might have got a pass.
That's what I was about to say.
Hey, he faded in. He light, bright, and damn near white. So he faded in and he got a part. He was part. All right, let's throw it over to the G5 monster, the 6'5" wide receiver.
Man, now I will say this. Going to predominantly white school, like for me, it was a culture shock, but at the same time, it was cool because I give a lot of credit to my office coordinator, Coach Yelton, who recruited me to go to Wingate. He literally was around campus telling these teachers like who I was, and you know, I guess like even like some of the students that kind of helped show you around, like he made sure they knew my name. So I was welcomed a lot, you know, like around campus, even though I was like talking like I said, random white people I didn't know, but they really welcomed me in there, so that made it a lot easier. And then like I said, the biggest thing I guess that really affected me was like being in English class, and it was like around Black History Month, and being the only Black kid in there around 30 students. So it's like any question that comes across is like directly directed to me, and it's like when you receive that, being the only Black person in the room, coming from a white teacher, all white student, it's like you literally feel like you defending the whole entire Black race as a whole at that moment to these, you know, these 30 people, these other 29 people that's in this room, because they have no clue what it's like to be Black. And so now you literally are picking and choosing your words carefully, because you can't talk to them like we can talk to each other right now, because they don't understand it. So it's like I literally gotta pick my words and kind of describe what it's like to be African American, why Martin Luther King meant to me, and just all kind of stuff. So it really like changed a lot of me like at that moment, because it's like, wow, like literally like this is what we doing. You gonna ask me what I think about Martin Luther King in front of everybody? So but yeah, that was definitely different. And then also like I remember going to like psychology class. Like I was a top student in psychology, and I remember like coming in there late one morning, we was getting our test scores back, and I had like a 99 on an open book test, and it was like this one question everybody else got wrong, and I got it right, and it was just like, how the hell you figured out the question, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I asked you. I just took the majority of the people who said who got this answer, and I went with it, you know, this silly stuff, but it was like being looked at differently, because they were like, how the hell you got the highest grade? How did everybody in this damn class, you know what I'm saying? So,
Hey,
you know, it's like stuff like that you just got to kind of walk with.
hey, so y'all
Right.
couldn't get 100 on the open book test.
Man, I don't know what the hell it was. That shit was just too funny. I
Hey,
laughed.
well,
It was crazy.
maybe we'll block you out on the next education podcast if you ain't make 100 on the open book test. But hey, but to throw it out there with my educational experience and being at a predominantly white school, I went to North Greenville, which is in Tigerville, South Carolina, where the closest gas station is 15 minutes away, and the closest grocery store is about 30 minutes away. And it was just different for me being from the city, to where I could just mostly either walk or ride a bike or as a short drive. But that was my biggest experience. And as far as being in a predominantly white school, I was easy to adapt because I had been cultured with and been around Caucasian people my whole life through football, basketball, sports, and through my parents. So it wasn't a big adjustment with that. My biggest adjustment really was just being away from home and being in that type of environment. But moving on, here's a question that I'm really looking forward to getting some answers on. It says, does having a college degree or degrees make you more qualified for a job? Because some people believe and think that you can teach and train a person to do a job regardless of education. They're saying that it depends on what you can remember and how you take it from the training to your job station. I want to weigh in on that, and I'm going to start with Mr. T. Beasy.
I think it depends. You know, a lot of times we look at those job postings, they'll have experience as a substitute for education, implying that if you've done the job duties long enough, then you can step in and do the job. I'm going to say that what education does is it provides you the tools to be analytically flexible. And I think that that's where you're seeing people struggle now as we work in this pandemic, right? You see an absence of critical thinking. Like, why wouldn't you wear a mask? Like, even if the world is lying right now, like, wear a mask so that you can make sure you double down on your protection. If you don't wear a mask and then you end up catching the coronavirus, it's kind of your fault. You see what I mean? That's not a very difficult thing to think through and decipher. But this is kind of what we miss when our education systems just aren't what they need to be. The whole idea that there is 1 in 4 Americans that think that the earth is flat, even though that there is very indistinguishable evidence of the earth being round, right? That's a very huge fail of the education system. And it just kind of really affirms that people need to make sure that they're going to school and paying attention.
Exactly. So we're going to jump from the doctorate student to the doctor, Dr. Kennedy. What say you?
Yeah, same thing as what Tim said. Yeah, it depends. I always look at education as I'm learning stuff, but you know, when I get a job, I might be doing something totally different. Fortunately, I've got a job that I'm doing something specifically what I got my undergrad and also my graduate degree in, and so it helps. But yeah, that's what education is. Some people think that if you get an education or you get a degree, that means you're going to get the salary job. That doesn't guarantee anything. At the end of the day, you got to go out there and hustle. Even when you get in the workforce, you got to go out there and work, and you got to go out there and grind, and you got to go out there and make people respect you, because they're not gonna. The degree most of the time just gets you in the door, right? But when you get in the door, you gotta put your head down and go to work. And so that's what I say. The degree it gets you in the door, but at the end of the day, you got to show them your work, right? You got to know if you're not there, they're gonna miss your production. So that's what I believe.
All right. Next, we have Mr. AC, Mr. Cool.
Oh man, my opinion on this. I'm gonna try to wrap this quick, but really, man, the manufacturing field, it's almost like you really are to a degree disrespected if you don't have no paperwork behind your name, because it's like, I don't care how hard I work, how hard I keep my head down. It's like the fact of the matter that I've already figured out the process, and the fact of the matter that I already know like the steps that need to be done, and you know, all of this other stuff. It's like, really, at the end of the day, like I found out the hard way, I found out that I'm more valuable being on the floor than being moved up to a management position. Because it's like, now that we know we got this knowledgeable hourly employee that knows the whole process, you know, backwards and forwards, it's better for us to keep him on the floor, because he can, you know, attack any issues prior to them getting to the next level, or prior to maybe even have to go to an engineer, or us having to call maintenance, because this one particular employee is going all out, you know, over and beyond his regular job duties, that he's more valuable here on this low level than for us to move him up, because we move him up, now we lose all of these skills, all of this knowledge. And so it's like, with me not having that education behind me, it's like, I got to get it the hard way, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, you know, at this point in time, I can be honest with you, like, I'm tired of getting it out the mud, because it's like, y'all got me working around these other cats who all they come in and do is here to get a check, and I'm actually coming here trying to advance, but y'all holding me back because there's nobody who's showing enough potential to even be able to replace me if I was to be promoted to another position. So I would tell anybody, it's definitely worth getting something behind them, an associate something, because you know, everybody's not always gonna look out for you. You know, sometimes you might end up in the right situation where you work hard, put your head down, do what you do. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and move you up to a team leader. Let's move you up to a supervisor or whatever, because I see that your hard effort and your hard work. Or you can end up in my position where, you know what, we know this guy, we're gonna keep them right there. We're gonna use them up until, you know, until they basically either get fed up and leave, or they shut up and just be quiet. So yeah, education definitely is with that paper behind your name is a plus in my eyes, because trying to get it out the mud, you're gonna be still swimming in that same mud.
Yeah, let me piggyback off that for a second. So two quick points. The first one being is that, you know, basically what Dre is alluding to is having a degree sometimes is the beginning of the conversation. I think Juwan kind of said it too. You can't even talk unless you have the degree. And then to further complicate it is there are certain places where if you have a degree from that place, that you don't even have to talk. And as an example, my mentor told me this. He said that he went to a workshop at Harvard that lasted for a week, but he put it on his resume, because once people see Harvard, they stop reading the rest of the resume. And so when you think about just how powerful that social capital is as it relates to education, then you can kind of understand why it's important for you to get it.
Gotcha. What say you, QB1?
Yeah, just piggybacking off of everybody else, man. I work in the manufacturing field as well, and you can, if you have a degree, you have an opportunity to get jobs. Say I'm 23 years old coming out of college, and I have this degree in manufacturing. I have a better opportunity to get into the management straight out of college almost, but the person who's an hourly person might have to work there 10, 15 years before they get an opportunity, you know. So, I mean, it does make a big difference there. And a lot of this stuff about school is, I don't think people understand this enough. It ain't really what you know a lot of times, it's who you know.
I mean, that's exactly right.
I can have a PhD and still not get the job that I want, but if I got a LB as the CEO of the company, he gonna hook me up with the job, and that's the
no sir.
That's how
not you,
going from
somebody else.
Beginning of time. hey, you don't give me that job, we gonna have some problems.
Well, stop the problem.
But
stop the problem.
From the beginning of the time, it's been like that. I mean, if you got an inside scoop somewhere, you're more likely to get the job. You're gonna get at least a good opportunity to get it. But then some people don't get that opportunity at all. But going back to what y'all were talking about earlier, you know, a lot of times I say in middle America, kind of, you know, I guess maybe $200,000 or less type salaries. I mean, you do have to have that prerequisite type deal of a degree to, you know, get in the door. And if you don't, you know, like HR, they have a process that they go through, you know, to qualify you even for an interview type thing. And if you don't have a degree, a lot of times they throw that resume to the side. Not saying it's fair, but that's just how it works a lot of times.
Yeah, it's definitely not fair, but I was told a long time ago, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And then a lot of times it's getting your foot in the door. But like Jawan said earlier, no matter who you know or what kind of education you have, you still need to have to show your work. You have to produce the work. So you kind of led into my next question. Go ahead, Chance.
Just to do off what you say, especially being a black man. I mean, I know we don't have, like I said, we don't have people up in CEOs and stuff to look out for us and stuff like that. That kind of with this social stuff that's going on right now, that we're trying to get you know, other nationalities or races to understand, is that, you know, we didn't have a head start. You know, we starting from, you know, we gave them a head start, and we trying to catch up type deal. So it's kind of it's tough out here in that situation. I mean, I've seen CEOs with their kids, you know, they get vice presidents jobs and all kind of stuff like that, and they're nowhere near qualified as the person that was up under them, you know. So, and not saying that's a racist thing, because they could it could be a white person that's qualified for the job that don't get it because of that son too. But we don't have the opportunities to do stuff like that because we don't have anybody in those type of situations.
Okay. We kind of hit on my next question. So if you could briefly tell me, how has or not having a college degree helped or hurt you in your careers, or just simply obtaining a job, getting the job that you want? How has having your degree hurt or helped you in your career? And I'll toss it to Andre. You kind of hit on it earlier, so if you would kind of, you know, tell us briefly about it, and we'll keep it pushing.
Oh, I mean, like I said, it's definitely hurt me. Like I said, it's not my knowledge. Like, you know, it's not my capability. It's more or less just just me not having a piece of paper that says that I, you know, attended college for 4 years of my life. Like, it's just, I mean, that just basically boils down to dead honest truth about it. Like, so, like I said, I've been in a situation where I've handled stuff for maintenance people, figured out situations for team leads. You know, hell, I've had team leads come to me and ask me about where should certain people be positioned because I'm in, I'm in the field with them. You know what I'm saying? I'm on the floor with them, but they using my brain to do their job. So yeah, it's definitely like I said, it's hurt more than anything. And at some college, ain't cutting.
Right. All right. Throwing it to the doc. The doctor, is the doctor in the house?
Yeah, I'll pick this one up. I don't in my situation, I don't think it hurt or helped. A lot of times with engineering, a lot of times the experience is taken more so than getting an advanced degree, like getting a master's or getting a PhD, because it's now if you get a master's or PhD, you're getting a degree in a more, I guess, a smaller subset of a field. And so sometimes they take experience more so than anything. But at the end of the day, I never really saw education as a price tag. I never went to college just to say, hey, I'm gonna get a job to make this much. I got an education just so I'll know things, and I think knowing things helps you to advance. Also, because I'm an engineer, I got to solve problems. Once I start solving problems for whatever company I work for, they see the value in you, and so that doesn't really equate to what the degree is. And so, yeah, so having a PhD didn't equate to initial value, monetary value of more money, right? But it gives me a step up. Like if I'm going for another job, where I'm competing against somebody who doesn't have a PhD with the same amount of experience. And so if I got the same amount of experience and I have a PhD, the other guy doesn't, most likely I'll get that job. And so and that's what I kind of see from that issue.
Gotcha. Mr. Arkansas.
All right. Well, I don't have a PhD. I don't have a master's. I have a bachelor's degree. But the job I have now, I wouldn't have been considered for it if I have that. So it does make a big difference. And my degree was not in manufacturing. My degree was actually physical education. So I coached and taught PE for 8 years before I got into that. That's why I say it's not about what you know, it's who you know, because it so happened that I was coaching some kids, and their parents, a lot of their parents worked at the company that I worked at, and they saw, the kids and stuff like that, and they was like, man, I think you'd be good at this. I'll let you give it a try. So, I went through the process, and then, 10 years later, I've been with the same company. So, I mean, it's not, nobody asked me, they ask you for your degree. They don't ask you what your GPA was. Like, I definitely have a 3.8 like Juwan had. I had just enough to stay in ball. But once you got that piece of paper, it is what it is. It don't matter what the grades were. And I think college really just teaches you how to manage your time and how to survive and get by. I mean, you don't have to have a 4.0. Just because you got a 4.0 don't mean you're gonna be better in the workplace. It is. I mean, maybe not saying you, Juwan, but maybe you don't know.
Oh no, I definitely get it, because you got to work with people, you got to be able to work on teams and all that kind of stuff. And so it's not just being smart, but you also got to be personable too.
Yeah, you got to know how to like people who see students know how to have fun and still do enough to pass the class. You know what I mean? So they know how to prioritize their life a little different. If somebody just all they worried about is getting straight A's, they have no social life or no personal skills, it's not going to help them either.
Yeah, not talking about you, Juwan. Not you, Juwan. We talking about somebody else.
Yeah, he can do both. He was that smart,
Hey, well, Chance, I saw your grades, man, and I think you had like a 2.0 in gym class. So we just gonna move on to Tim and let's see what he said. Make some sense to this for me, Tim.
In high school.
No, but we'll talk about that later.
Straight A's and PE, not the rest of them.
Yeah, you did have straight A's, 7 straight A's for absent. Go ahead, Tim. Make sense of this for me, man.
Chance Nesbitt majoring in eligibility, right? So anyway, I think that you just got to think about this in a practical perspective. In terms of me, I wouldn't be able to work the current job that I work now in higher education without having an advanced degree. And then when you think about it in terms of you got a human resources department who, whenever you got a job that somebody's applying for, you probably got 100 applications, right? So after a while, you don't go and say who is qualified as much as you say who's got the stuff that doesn't meet the job posting. And so if you're a person who doesn't have, you know, a bachelor's degree and the job posting calls for that, then I just push you to the side without even looking at your experience, right? So it's a very precarious situation to be in sometimes, because especially as the world becomes more automated, now you don't even have a person that has to review these resumes. You can just program a computer and look for, search keywords on your resume for things like bachelor's, master's, schools, whatever the case may be. And now you can't even hold anybody accountable for you not getting the job, right? And so, you know, I think as we move forward, this becomes an expansive conversation about the value of education and what it really means, because in some ways we're clinging to an old concept about education that may be outdated, but at the same way, we still have these conventions in terms of how we use education to differentiate ourselves between one another. And you got to take that seriously if you're going to survive.
Good point. Well, me being in education myself, and hopefully I'm educating the youth and future leaders, I would say education plays a small part in my job. It's other skills that I use more than my education, like classroom management and other things like that, building relationships, having a rapport and things like that, those social skills with those kids that I use more than my education. But with that being said, we're going to look at some percentages and some data to get some a different perspective as it pertains to race and education. And we're looking at the percentages of distribution of educational attainment of adults ages 25 and older. And I want you just to take a minute and look at those percentages. And I want you to tell me, what does those numbers say to you? What does those numbers suggest to you? Just take a quick second, look at them, kind of break it down quickly. And we'll throw it to Mr. Nesbitt whenever you get a chance. Take a look at it, look at those numbers. And it's the percentage distribution of educational attainment of adults ages 25 and older by race and ethnicity. And this was back in 2016.
Might toss to somebody else till they get back.
All right, how about if I toss it to you, Tim?
You know, I think what you're seeing is that, you know, even though we think that college is a rite of passage, you don't have a majority of people who attend college and finish and attain that. There's a lot more people who don't possess that credential. So that kind of reinforces, in some regard, that it can be very beneficial to you, even if you don't do anything. And I don't mean to make it sound marginalized by any stretch of the imagination. But even if you go to a trade school, or even if you go to a community college, you see that you're going to put yourself in very exclusive company, and you'll really increase your earnings potentials. Most millionaires over the course of their lifetime, so by the time they start working until the time they finish, that's when they attain their millions. Most of those people are going to have a bachelor's degree, whereas individuals who are unable to finish college have far less earning potential.
Anybody else want to chime in?
Yeah, let me go ahead, man. What I get from this graph is, you know, the percentage of, you know, the different nationalities, you know, how often they go to college or after high school. And, you know, like I said before, you know, we don't have that backing of a lot of times of a lot of people going to college before us. And then the cost of college, if you don't get a scholarship, is so much that you're like, all right, am I going to put myself in $100,000 worth of debt coming out of high school to go to college? You know, that brings us to another point is my wife actually works for a VOTEC type school where it's called the Career Center, but you know, they teach you all these different skills and trades, like, you know, welding, construction, carpentry, automotives, you know, mechanics and stuff like that, to where a lot of people can go straight out of high school and start making some really good money. Because college ain't for everybody, for sure. You know, college is, if you know what you're going into college for and you got a certain degree that you want to get, that's where I see the most benefit. But people, you know, like I said, I play sports. I didn't really know what I wanted to go to college for until maybe my junior year. I didn't pick a major. It was like I'm just taking all these general classes for the first couple of years, and then by my junior year, I'm like, all right, I got to figure out something. So, you know, I love sports, so I thought PE, physical education, coaching, you know, was my route to go. It's just go to college for the right reasons. I know everybody always pushes go to college, go to college, go to college. But like I said, if you're not going to go into something, or you don't want to advance past your master's and your PhD type thing, might want to reconsider and say, if I'm good at something, let me focus on that and start making money out the gate, because you can go to college for sociology degree and you're not a sociologist or a psychiatrist or anything like that, and you know, you end up working at Macy's or Burger King or something like that, you know, and then you still got to pay back all that school debt. So make sure you know what you want to do. I mean, you don't have to go into college knowing what you want to do, but make sure that you got a plan and that you want to do something that's gonna, that the pay range is in advantageous to you.
Gotcha. JK or G5 Monster want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I'll piggyback off what Chance said without going straight to that chart. But yeah, I work with some youth down here in Charleston, a club called Distinguished Gentlemen's Club. And so me and my high school kids, we talk about this all the time, about college and the benefits of college, and you don't necessarily have to go to college, right? To have a plan, and it's okay if the plan doesn't work out, right? But like Chance said, college is an investment, especially if you don't have a scholarship or anything, and it's going to be money. And so you want to major in something that you can get a job for, just the cost value thing with it, that you can get a job and actually be able to pay off whatever loans you get. And so, like you said, if you major in psychology, not necessarily, and you got $100,000 in loans, that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna be able to pay those off, getting some job doing counseling or something like that. So yeah, and so that's what Chance said. But just looking at this graph, it looks like the people who's getting the degrees are white Americans and Asians, and they're capitalizing on getting degrees, and they find that very valuable. And other than that, everybody else every other nationality kind of looks on the same percentage as far as college education. Yeah, and you know Asian nationalities really are known to be the smart people, and so they get here, and that's what their parents. I think it's generational. That's what their parents teach them. That's what they're instilling them from a young age. Hey, when you grow up, you're gonna be a doctor, you're gonna be a lawyer, you're gonna be an engineer, and so those guys grow up thinking about that. They grow up reading, they grow up doing math, and they grow up doing all that kind of stuff, and so they prioritize that from a young age. As far as African Americans, a lot of times we don't instill that in our kids from a young age. That hey, but you can do whatever you want to do, whatever you put your mind. If you want to be an athlete, you can be an athlete. If you want to be the president of the United States, you can be president of the United States. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, you can be a doctor or a lawyer. If you want to go to college, you can go to college. But you got to work hard, and whatever you do, you got to work hard and put time in. Anything you put time in, you can be successful. And so, but yeah, that's what I see out of that graph. That Asians and white Americans are getting degrees, bachelor degrees.
Gotcha. G5.
I'll wrap it up. Yeah, but I mean, really, you ask me, from my personal experience, it's more like, if you look at it, people are just duplicating what they see. Because y'all look at the Pacific Island, you're talking about people out in Hawaii and those islands and stuff out that way. Only college you know about out there is the University of Hawaii. So it's like, so I can see that 18%, other than the ones that come, to the big part of the United States, getting education when they mainly on the West Coast. So it's just like, so you can see why theirs is only 18% or whatever the case may be. And of course, the Native Americans, hell, they pretty much got reservations, got land, they got their own area, they got their own territory. So They don't necessarily have to come up out of there. They can stay there and be content if they want to. So I can understand their numbers, you know. And then with Hispanics, you know, Hispanics here, they fighting to get green cards. So I understand why their percentages are like 15% as far as a bachelor's or higher or whatever the case may be. And then of course, you know, like Jawan said, with the white and the Asian community, they pushing the whole, you know, you gonna be this, you gonna be that. Like, that's one thing I always tell people all the time. With the black community, we never can follow suit with the family. Like if your dad's a policeman, 9 times out of 10, his son don't want to be a policeman. He want to be a basketball player. And I ain't saying nothing wrong with being a basketball player, but if your dad has already established his name and already has laid the foundation, and you grew up, you know, tagging along with your dad to any job, you know, function and all this, that, and the third, and the police chief know you, and whoever's next in line to be the police chief, when it's your turn to become a police officer, so you pretty much already lined up, and then you detour off that route and go right or go left, you know, it's like you break the chain. But it wasn't a bad chain to break. It was actually a good chain to keep going. But you broke the chain. So now the chain is broken, and of course, you know, no parent is gonna, like, you know, downplay you because you want to be something else. But if you would have kept the chain going, you never know. You might have a whole family of police officers, you know, that are good cops, you know, whatever the case may be, you know, just speaking on the social climate right now. But that's what we have a more tendency to do. Like, I dated a girl one time, her mom has her own sewing business. You know, she's calling her, telling her to bring her fabric and all this stuff. She, you know, fixing people clothes alterations, all that. This girl had no intentions of following up what her mama doing. And she's already got a staff. She's already got the building, got the equipment, got the clientele. She has no intentions of doing it. She decided to be a dental assistant. And, you know, I'm just like looking like, wow. You know, I met another guy who worked in manufacturing with me. His dad owned horses and owned a farm. You know, he was telling me his dad was selling horses for 16 G's a pop. You know, they're going to buy thoroughbreds at the end of their career, breed them. And of course, they still, like I said, they're selling the offspring like 16, 20,000 per horse. He has no intentions of doing that. He'd rather work in the manufacturing field, working under somebody else. And I'm like, dude, I would love to get a broom, not a broom, but a brush, and be brushing a horse hair when I know I can get rid of it for 20K. Than being up in here grinding and working my behind off. Yeah, we might be making 60, 65K, but dude, if you take all this time that we took to make that 65K and invest it into these horses, you probably can make 120K. But that's our mindset. You know, it's like you say, like Jawan said, we always preach you can be anything instead of just funneling our kids, especially when you already got something good and already got something established. It's like, don't break that chain. Keep that chain going. Now, it's a different story if you're just incapable of doing what everybody's doing. Then, yeah, okay, yeah, now you need to figure out something else to do. But we already got something going, and it's already established. And, like, really, if you think about it, like I just use sports for example. Look at the Plumlee family. There's about 5 of them Plumlee boys in the NBA. And I promise you, 3 of them probably weren't really good enough to be there. But the fact that they older 2 brothers or their daddy played, they just, you know, they drafted them anywhere, or they gave them a shot to play in the NBA. But like I say, they stuck to the script. They didn't get off course. You know, the Manning family, they doing the same thing. It's like you gotta sometimes when it comes to opportunities, you gotta take advantage of it. But like I say, for us, like I say, our biggest goal is just to go to college. You know, get your schooling. You know, like I say, there's no direction. Just be anything. Just as long as you're in school. Like, as long as you're in school, everything's great. Everybody, oh, good job, LB, you in school. But at the end of the day, like I say, everybody's doing something different. Like I say, don't even get into the field that you went to school for. So, like I say, man, I got a different perspective on it. But yeah, I definitely, like I say, we more of examples of what we see and what we taught. And until we decide to break that chain as a people, it's going to continue to be trending in the same way this graph going.
All right. Next question. As we all know, education can and sometimes does dictate how well we're paid. So my question is, knowing what you know now, would you change anything about your choice to attend college or would you make another career choice? And I'll throw that out to Mr. Nesbitt.
I wouldn't change it. I think me having a degree is probably one of the better things that could have happened. I mean, I'm not real handy. I'm not a mechanical kind of guy. I can't fix cars. Something break at the house, I'm calling I'm calling somebody to come fix it. I ain't doing it myself. So, I mean, as far as a trade, I don't think there's a whole bunch of things technically that I'm really good at. But I have been a coach, and I think I know how to, manage people and talk to people and stuff like that. So I think that's been a great thing. Playing sports, being part of a team, knowing how to work together, and not try to be the ball hog per se on things, just trying to make it an organization come together as a team is probably one of my specialties. So I think, I wouldn't take it back. I think college was great for me. I don't think it's different for everybody.
Gotcha. Next, Dr. Kennedy.
No, I wouldn't change anything. I think I majored in what I should major in. I think when I first went to school, it was okay. What engineer? I knew I should be an engineer, but what engineer should I be? And I think I picked the correct one. I picked electrical/computer, and so it's highly integrated with mathematics, and that's what I'm good at. And so yeah, I wouldn't change anything. But at the end of the day, I didn't. And people probably, I never did stuff for a grade. I never did stuff for money, and so that wasn't the motivating factor. The motivating factor was to do stuff that I didn't know how to do stuff that people might think that can't be done, and so that's what motivates me at work. Still, people say, "Hey, you can't do this. Like this can't be done." Well, nah, you don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it right now, but give me enough time, I'll show you how to do it. And so the motivation is the not knowing to knowing. And so my motivation was never money. And so I don't think that was a motivation for me. But I think I'm doing what I was called to do. So in the engineering field.
Gotcha. G5 Monster.
Oh man, I really wouldn't change nothing other than when I got to Wingate, instead of majoring partying in vagina, I would have majored in them books like I needed to. But that was just, that was my life at the time.
Gotcha. And last but not least, Mr. T. Beasy himself.
Well, we know what Dre was doing, especially since he said there was only 6 black females at Wingate. So you read between them lines right there. Right? But, I wouldn't change what I did. I would change how I went about doing it. And what I mean by that is I still go to college, but I also make sure I found a way to pick up a trade along the way. Because for all of you who might have student loan debt, it's a lot easier to pay that off when you know how to fix cars on the side. Then the other thing I might consider doing is going to an HBCU or making sure I go to a place where the social capital is going to take me far. Because once again, once people see Harvard on your resume, they don't even care if you majored in, garbage takeout, as long as you got Harvard on that resume.
Okay, good points. I definitely think I wouldn't change anything about going to college, but I would, like Tim said, I would learn a trade, cutting hair, being able to fix cars, because I'm not very good with my hands and fixing things. So I would have learned something, a trade. So if a pandemic did hit, I could still feed my family and wouldn't have to rely on my education. Now, bringing our podcast about education and what it means to you to a wrap, we're going to go around the horn and let everyone give us a word and some final thoughts on education and some quick advice to our future leaders and our youth. We'll start with you, T. Beasy.
Yeah, 2 quick things. First thing is if you got not college age, but high school age kids right now, look into your local community colleges to see if there are some classes that they can take while they're in high school. It can help you save on the cost of them going to college and helping them enter into college. And then number 2, take this opportunity as you homeschool your kids to actually teach your kids some of the things that's truthful. For example, we all know Christopher Columbus did not discover America. So your kids probably got that information early. Now's your chance to reprogram them and teach them some stuff that's very important to them. Teach them about some African authors, African-American authors like Zornell Hurston, James Baldwin, Richard Wright, among others, Maya Angelou. You got that opportunity as parents as you homeschool your kids to be way much better for it down the road.
All right, good job. G5, the monster.
Drizzy.
Oh man, take the education seriously. Do your research at the university. Do your research on the town. You know, don't get caught out there 15 miles away from a gas station. You know what I'm saying? Don't get caught out there going to a school that only got 6 black women there if that's what you're into. You know, go somewhere, you know what I'm saying, that's gonna cover all your interests, you know what I'm saying? Make sure it's gonna take care of that major that you want to major in. Like I said, if you also got some side interests, see if it cover those as well, you know, and stay focused, you know what I'm saying? It's easy to get distracted, you know what I'm saying? You're away from home, you know, mom, pops ain't there, you know what I'm saying? The guide you pop your hand when you do something wrong. You gotta stay focused on the goal at hand, because I promise you, you might not believe it right now, but on the back end, you'll tell me thank you.
Drizzy, the words of Drizzy. Mr. Nesbitt, give
Like I
us some
stated
parting words.
before, man, college ain't for everybody. It's great for some people. Going to a trade school or doing something family business, family oriented is a great option also, man. You just gotta do what you love and love what you do. Because I mean, you can go to college for all the wrong reasons, or you can not go to college for all the wrong reasons. Just make sure you're true to yourself. Figure out what you're good at or what you're passionate about, and go after it. Because just going through the motions doesn't necessarily make you successful.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And last but not least, it's the doctor, and it's not Dr. Dre, it's Dr. Kennedy.
You call me Dr. J on the court, LeBron. You know how I do.
Dr. Jumper?
But
Definitely not.
hey.
Keep on going, man.
But nah, I say take advantage, man. Take advantage of every situation you have, every you have. School, free knowledge. If you get it, you're paying for advantage of it. Don't just mess around and not take advantage of things that you have in front of you that you can take opportunity with. Because people know the countries a lot of times don't have those opportunities to get an education. So at the end of the day, take advantage of it. And what it'll bring you in the future, you may not know right now, and it might take a while for you to gain that. But at the end of the day, it'll end up paying off in some kind of way.
Good job.
Dude,
And
you got the worst Wi-Fi.
I'll just add in, man, take advantage of every opportunity you're given. It may not look like it's going to lead to anything right now, but you have to also think down the road, how does this help me? So don't just look at things on the surface as it is now. How can it help you? Who do I rub elbows with? Every opportunity may not be big now, but it could lead to something down the road. And I always tell young people, if it's worth having, it's worth working for. Don't let it be given to you easily because you take it for granted. And with that being said, before we close out this edition of the rip28 podcast, I want you to remember to go like, follow, share, and tell your family, friends, and foes about the rip28 podcast on IG, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and SoundCloud. We thank you for tuning in with us. We thank you for the support. And speaking for my panel, we'll catch you next time. And it's been a great edition of the rip28 podcast with some of Broad River's finest. Peace.
Tell everybody. Yes, sir.